Roll that beautiful videotape footage. When taped TV was a new thing, 1960. Television has gone through some amazing changes over the years. In the beginning, most shows were done live, then film came into use. Nowadays, most everything comes to you via videotape. Let's take a look back to the 1960 when videotape was a modern miracle of electronics. The following is based on an article titled TV Goes to Tape, which was published February 1960. This fascinating article began, "This year, much of live TV you see is about as live as a 6-month frozen mackerel. The shows come off a chocolate ribbon of plastic videotape that was recorded anywhere from a few seconds to a year before you see them." End quote. By 1960, most big specials, big budget dramas, or song and dance were performed in person only for tape machines. Also by 1960, more and more half-hour film programs were switching over to videotape. If you were one of the millions who lived west of the Eastern Time Zone, you were probably watching videotape replays of on programs that people out east had seen live. It was considered an almost jaw-dropping miracle of science that all sight and sound of life could actually be captured on a somewhat frail ribbon and played back straightway with no processing whatsoever. The process was so good right from the get-go that often it was not distinguishable from live TV. The television industry itself is who benefited the most from the advent of videotape, as it provided an enormous savings over film and processing. The viewer gained also in that shows were produced much better, with scenes being able to be reshot again and again until it was gotten just exactly right. A gain to viewers was also realized by obtaining big stars who might have committed their nights to the legitimate theater, but could be lured into doing a midday taping session. Videotape also brought quality programs at convenient times. For example, Dinah Shore, a big star back in the day, would appear at 9 p.m., whether you lived in Seattle, Albuquerque, Kansas City, or Saginaw, Michigan. To manage that from Hollywood, where 9 o'clock arrives last, Miss Shore would actually begin singing at 6 Pacific Time, and the East sees the show live. In the summer of 1959, Tab Hunter, and Joe Van Fleet made a tape of a program of a piece called Disaster Area as an installment for the popular GE TV theater. For a visitor who had the good fortune to be on the studio set, it looked as though the play was being telecast live. Standard television cameras and microphones fed their signals to the control room, and from there things changed. The signal did not go live to the transmitting antenna, but to a room on the floor below, where a man with headphones sat at a steel cabinet about the size of an office desk. On top lay 2 chunky metal reels loaded with videotape, 2 inches wide and nearly as thin as carbon paper. The videotape rolled at 15 inches per second as it quietly recorded a tense scene on the stage. The operator was only able to see the action on the monitor screen above him. After 3 or 4 minutes, the monitor went blank, and a voice called out, "Let's see that scene again, Jim." The operator reversed the tape for an instant and then leaned forward toward the mic. "Okay, here goes." Onto the monitor screen flashed the scene of the actors on their sofa, as bright and clear as before. Months later, when the audience saw the play on the General Electric Theater, they saw it the same way, right off the videotape master. Videotape was pretty durable also. The GE Theater episode could be played 100 times or more without noticeable loss of clarity. The same could not be said of film. Here was another advantage for producers of shows, that some videotape could be used to record hundreds of different shows and erased after each use. Of course, film could not do that. In those early days of videotape, it was manufactured by Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing Company. Like home videotape, which came along several decades later, the tape was glossy on one side and dull on the other. The glossy side being Mylar plastic, 0.001 inch thick. The dull side is where the actual recording would be done. it looks the same after recording as it did before, but is due to an ultra-thin pigment of iron oxide. This pigment had to be laid down perfectly even, and just perfectly smooth. An imperfection as small as a 30 millionth of an inch was able to cause a TV signal and show instead streaks of white, gray, or black dots called dropouts. Signals from the television camera would be transferred to videotape via tiny recording heads that are electromagnets. These recording heads magnetize the iron oxide particles as the tape passes, which in turn leaves an invisible magnetic pattern that matches the signal from the TV camera. When playback takes place, the recording process is reversed. The magnetic pattern on the tape induces an electrical current in the coils of the recording heads. This current is identical to the original signal sent from the camera. It is in essence magic provided by the world of science. Today we are of course used to videotape, and the quality of the recordings is pretty close to being perfect. As such was not so in the early days of video recording programs. It was good, but it wasn't perfect. For an audience raised on live or filmed programming, it was fairly easy to spot a videotape show by the imperfections which invariably crept in. TV viewers saw the first videotaped program on 2.5 minute segment on October 23, 1956, on the Jonathan Winters Show. Then in 1960, NBC taped about 30 shows per week and CBS about 40. No details were given for ABC. Also by 1960, U.S. TV stations had bought more than 250 Ampex recording machines at a cost of $45,000 each, plus $250 for every reel of raw tape. That was a really large sum of money for the time, but still significant savings over the use of film. The thinking at the time was that tape's principal time savings were twofold. One is that the show was edited while actually being shot by switching cameras from the control room, not later. And two, as I mentioned briefly earlier, processing was eliminated, and you see the result in mere minutes after the camera's halt. There was found an unexpected bonus which turned up during the telecast of a championship pro football game. The game was being aired live, but it was also being simultaneously videotaped. And just before the final seconds of play, someone tripped over a cable and the game was knocked off the air. Still, the fans did not miss the final play. It was only a few minutes delayed, but seen via the miracle of videotape. At this early date, it was already being considered one of the potential possible market for a combination TV camera recorder for home. The cost in 1960 would have made this possible for limited consumers, as cost for a home unit was estimated that it would be around the range of $100,000. This, as it was back in the day when videotape recording broke on the scene and made significant changes in the entertainment industry. As I record this to bring to you, there's another marvel held in my hand, because whereas I was brought up on using videotape and audio tape, now there's this little MP3 recorder that uses no tape, and I don't understand how it works, but it works, and it works well. But video is here to stay for a very long time. Well, thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed. Please give us a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss out on any new programs here on the Dennis Morrison channel. God bless and good night.